it is, Don Daniel. There it is. We are live. My name is Don Daniel, founder of P.I.L.L Method International, and P.I.L.L stands for prepayment of principal, isolating the principal amount, leverage, and liquidity. We help people save money on borrowing money. Listen, you need to know what the cost of your money is. And I'm telling you, the way it's been taught to us for almost 90 years of amortization, we need to pay the banks retail for their money. There's only one way to pay that money back. All right. And they have given us the most inefficient way to pay money back on the planet. Well, we want to optimize that for you and tell you that you can cut your interest cost, not your interest rate, but your interest cost by 75 to 80%. So that you can borrow your money at a discount. Who wants to borrow money at a discount? Listen, I know the banks do. The banks definitely do. They're the biggest borrowers in town. They borrow our money. Then they lend out that money and make big profits with that money. And then they pay us pennies on the dollar for the use of our money. Listen, folks, no one knows more about the price of borrowing money than banks do. In fact, not only do they pay so little for it, they turn around and charge you for the idea of borrowing your money and paying you so little for it. Put your money in the bank and see how many fees there are for that service. So they're trying to recoup all of their costs. Listen, folks, I don't blame them for that. I'm just saying we need to take a page out of their book and learn how to borrow money at a discount as well. What do you say? If you are in Clubhouse this morning, I want you to go ahead and come to the stage if you have questions about this subject. All right. The Brrrr method, how to buy a property, rehab it. All right. Rent it, refinance, and then repeat. Get that cash out and do the thing all over again. If you want to see some of our examples that we're going to be putting on the screen, make sure you get your laptop out or your second phone or an iPad or a tablet or something. And then go right now, go to YouTube, search for P.I.L.L Method, and then watch our live. All right. But this morning, I want to start with saying good morning to everyone. Good morning to you. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I'm putting it in the chat, put a little sunshine in there. All right. Good morning to everyone here on Clubhouse. And I see Barkin and CK and George and Aisha. And let's see here, Brandy, I got Black, I got Ty, I got Marty, I got Clifford. Oh, and I got Alexander's got a red ticket. Alexander, cash that ticket in. Join the Mortgage Syndicate right now, and then join the P.I.L.L Method House as well. I'm glad to see you. I've got some people here that are watching us live. Good morning to all of you who are online watching us on YouTube. All right. I'll say good morning to all of you. Good morning. All right. Good morning to you. Put a little sunshine in there. And good morning to everybody who is watching. Sharon Jones says good morning to us on YouTube. So listen, folks, here's what we've got going on. I'm putting it on the screen right now. Let's go ahead. Yeah, that's right, man. Let's go ahead and put that on the screen. So if you want to see what we're talking about, all right, to understand what Brrrr is all about, that Brrrr method of buying real estate, all right? It is how to buy a property. Now, one of the things that they're talking about, folks, when you're buying that property is to learn how to buy it below market. Not only buy it below market, but there is a strategy. All right. There is a strategy. I'm not saying this is the only way to do it. OK, but the strategy is you want to buy it at 70% of ARV. What is ARV? ARV is after repair value. Okay, so now once you buy the property and then you fix it up, all right, you don't want to have more money into that property than 70% of after repair value. That's after you buy the property and after you repair it. So let's say let's say you can sell. I'm just picking out a number here. Good morning, Armin. Good to see you. He's watching us on YouTube. Let's just say that you can sell the property for $100,000. Okay, you can sell the property for $100,000. And once you have that property for 100,000, you could sell it for $100,000. What you want to do is be able to buy it. All right. And hold on for just a second. People are messaging me already. All right. Let me see here on my show now. All right. All right. So, and we're going to do something new today. So hold on for the new thing in just a minute. You want to buy that property, all right? And then what does it cost to rehab the property? What does it cost to rehab the property? So you want to be able to rehab the property. Once you have all of those costs involved, buying it and then rehabbing it, all right? And then the after repair value would be, let's say it's $100,000, just to keep the numbers round. Okay. But you have $70,000 all in, buying it and rehabbing it. That means when you sell it, all right, when you put it, let's say your long-term buy and hold, all right, then you can go to the bank. It's and then get refinance it, get your cash out, because now it's worth $100,000. All right. So now when you refinance it, you get your cash back out of it. And now you have a long-term hold property that you can now rent for more than your mortgage payment. And so now I'm talking about what happens after you rehab it, and you put a renter in, and you get your cash out. All right. Now you have a mortgage, a 30-year mortgage. So the idea is to rinse and repeat. Now you've borrowed that money. When can you refi it, and then get your cash out? Okay. Again, get your equity out now, and then take that cash and invest invest that again. All right. So I got, Sean Lashley is in here. Man, I'm talking and I'm not paying attention. All right. So let's bring him up to the stage. Sean Lashley, come on up, man. Talk to us this morning. How are you doing, sir?
Captain Don, good morning, family. How are you? All is well. Shout out to you. Shout out to everyone on the line, on Clubhouse and other platform that you have going on. I'm just here to support you, buddy.
All right, I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it. Sean Lashley. Now he's got a unique proposition. Sean, while I'm getting things set up here, why don't you tell them about what you have that is so unique?
You know, what I have that's so unique, Don, there's a quick story. If you give me 2 minutes, I'll share it with you.
Go right ahead. Take it.
When COVID started, Don, we have business operating and the government closes them. So we decided to start a new business to protect and build family income. And it took me 3 years to realize that I've built a business based on my personal branding. So we recently decided we're going to build a company over the next 10 years so we can actually sell the company. And in doing so, we're now offering our product for $10. So the focus, instead of getting a few customers set up with the premium products, we're getting the wider market access to the product, because I want to have everyone involved in 10K cards, guys. Say if you're a business owner or a professional, for $10, you can have your card set up. You can have the business card set up. And most importantly, start getting a message out to the world. I remember when you started on, you started off, you went straight to the pro level, to be honest with you. Put all of your contact points in one place, and you've been banging out the use of the digital business card up to now where you're at the top level. So I want to say thanks to you for all you do. And also, anyone in the audience that's listening to you today, just text me ICE 10K. Let's get you set up, guys. For $10, you can have your digital business card set up. I'm going to put yours at the top of the room, Don.
Too late. It's already up.
Oh, just okay. There you go. There you go. There you go.
All right, folks, that's my digital business card. In fact, that's the new video card, which is awesome. All right. Folks are responding to this thing like crazy. I don't carry paper cards anymore. I just use this. I send that out. I can send it out all kinds of ways. I can transfer it to somebody's phone. I can, if I'm doing a speech, I can put the QR code up on the screen, and everybody in the room has my business card now. Can save it to their phone. And when I make a change, it changes all of the cards that are on those phones instantaneously. It is an awesome, awesome deal. Plus, I can put videos up that kind of tell my story, get people excited about what we're doing. I love the whole thing, Sean.
Don, should we tell them you love it so much you bought it as a partner, or we should keep that a secret? Which one?
you can
Oh man,
you
shout
can
out to you, brother.
you can tell them about that if you want to, Sean. Listen, folks,
Now, I want to get them. Let them come on first as a client. Once they come on as a client and they see the value of the product, then we can have those conversations.
there you go. There you go. Ladies and gentlemen, so go ahead. I want to get started. I've invited some people in. So if you're in the room right now and you know anything about the Brrrr method, or you are buying properties right now, all right, and you're using this method, please come to the stage, because I want to talk about a particular aspect of the Brrrr method. It is when you when you refinance. Okay, you finance the property to get your money out. Then sometime in the future, you're going to refinance the property to get your equity out to go ahead and invest it in more property. If you know anything about that, I need you to come to the stage right now. Raise your hand, come to the stage, and talk to us about it so that we can focus in on the refi part. Because what I'm talking about is you can refi years sooner, take your cash out sooner, and get it at a much lower cost. Most people are unaware, especially real estate investors, are unaware how much it costs to get that refi, how much it costs them in interest before they can take their cash out. You know, if I was in a room of 100 real estate investors and put another 100 mortgage professionals, and then put another 100 realtors in there. I got 300 people in there. Okay. I got realtors, I got real estate investors, and I've got mortgage professionals. And I asked them this simple math question. I buy a property at $200,000, and then I sell it at $300,000. How much money did I make? Put it in the chat. If I buy a property at $200,000 and I sell it at $300,000, how much money did I just make? I'm going to put that out there for everybody. But this is a question that I've asked people in the past. Okay, what if I did that? How much money would I make if I did? So Brian Knoll said 100K. All right, all right, all right. There you go, in equity. Okay, so here's what I need you to understand, ladies and gentlemen. Real estate investors, realtors, mortgage professionals, whatever you're doing, you need to start counting the cost of borrowing the money. You need to start doing that cost of borrowing the money. Let me show you something here. I'm going. All right, there you go. Minus your loan cost, but nobody looks at the amount of interest that they're paying. Can I show you guys just something right here? I'm going to pull this up. We're just going to use $100,000. Okay, just $100,000 at 6%. If you want to see this, go ahead and put this up. Also, we're going to create a crawl that goes across the screen. But if you are online and you want to talk to me this morning, we got a way to do that. Here's what we're going to do. You can call me on my business number. I have operators standing by right now. 256-886-1867. 256 886 1867. If you call and say, I just say, have Don call me back and hang up. So just tell them, I want Don to call me back. Please send him the message. Okay, they're going to try to ask you a bunch of questions. Just say, Don is running the show. He says, I can have him call me back. Then we're going to put you live on the air to go over your questions or comments. Okay, 256 886 1867. I just put it in the comment section so that you can get it. So if you're online, if you're watching us on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, you can call 256 886 1867 and ask a question by leaving a message, and I will call you back. All right, I'll call you back live on air so that you can interact with us. So that because the people on Clubhouse have that opportunity. All right, if they want, they can come up to the stage and talk. All right, so let me show you something here. $100,000. Okay, at 6%, I need to show you what is actually going on that we need to start looking at. In the very first year on this loan, all right, you pay this loan down by $1,228, but it cost you $5,966 in interest to do that. All right, that's just on a $100,000 loan. Let's go in 5 years. Let's go in 5 years. Okay, in 5 years, I need you to look at this. This is absolutely crazy that if you are a real estate investor and you have this property and your tenants are paying you, all right, they're paying you rent, and then you're taking part of that rent and paying the mortgage, and then you're keeping the rest, which is your cash flow, which is good. All right, you're cash flowing on the property, fantastic. But in the first 5 years, you actually pay this loan down. This is your equity. $6,945.64. When you create more room between what the property is worth and what you owe on the property, that money that went to principal has created $6,945 in extra equity. Has it not? Yes or no? Is this $6,945 potential equity? All right. Yes or no? Are you guys following me? All right, I need to know if you're with me. Okay. All right, great. So, but how much did it cost in interest to get that equity? Okay. All right. Brian Knoll says, explain it one more time, please. Okay. Watch this, Brian. Okay. So when you borrow money from the bank, they just purchased $100,000 of your equity. You may have the deed. Okay, but you owe them money. And the difference between what you owe and what the property is worth is called equity. Let's just say the property is worth $120,000. That's how much the property is worth. That's what it praises for, 120,000. But you owe 100,000. That means you have $20,000 in equity. All right. Does everybody get that? Okay. $20,000 in equity. Now, when you start paying the loan back, all right, you're paying that loan back and you're purchasing your $100,000 of equity back from the bank. Because if you own the whole property free and clear, you'd have the equity would be $120,000 because that's what the property is worth, but you owe zero. That means you have $120,000 in equity. But because the bank is helping you out, you wanted to cash out, and now they own $100,000 of your equity, and now you're purchasing that equity back. All right. Brandy has something to say. Typically, the first few years of the loan, the majority of the payment goes to interest. Typically, yeah, you're right. Look, but most people are totally unaware of how much and the percentages that are involved. It is crazy what the percentages are. Let me show you something. So here it is. In the first 5 years, I'm purchasing my equity. Let's take let me start at payment number one. All right. At payment number one, I make this payment of $599.55. That's my payment. Look how much goes to principal. I just bought $99.55 of my equity back, but it cost me $500 in interest to do that. Folks, let me ask you something. Does this look like a fair deal on the face of it? I get $99.55 of my equity, but the bank is to charge me $500 in interest to get that, but the loan is at 6%. Does that make sense to you? All right. So $99.55 in equity, but it cost me $500 to get it. Watch this. In the first year, when you look at cumulative principal, this is all my principal payments added up. All of these principal payments, every month, I add them together. It comes to $1,228. Okay. But then if I pay the mortgage on time every month, I pay a ton of interest on that every single month. It's anywhere from $500 on the first payment, and on the 12th payment, I'm paying $494.39. But all these interest payments have to be added up as well. When I do that, the interest that I pay is $5,966.60. So here is the scenario. I get $1,228 in potential equity. All right, $1,228 in potential equity. And then it cost me $5,966.66 to get it. That's where we're going to stop right now because I got Onaje Barnes in the house this morning. Onaje, good morning to you, sir.
Hey, what's going on, sir?
Listen, man, I'm so glad that you're here because I like to talk about this from, a real estate expert's, perspective. And as far as I'm concerned, you're a real estate expert.
Well, I appreciate that. And before we get going, I do need everybody to go ahead and share out the room, y'all, so we can get this good information. Don's trying to help y'all to save on interest costs, right, which is a significant cost right now, right? Interest rates are at its highest point in, I don't know, maybe 30 years. So, if you want to save on that, or you know someone else that might need to save on that, this is a great room to learn how to do that in.
Thank you, Onaje. Onaje, could you talk to us since I'm not an expert on this part, right? I have a head knowledge, but could you talk to us about the 70% rule? And I don't know if you use the 70% rule.
Oh yeah. I'm old school like that. Yeah.
All right.
I may be young, but I do the old school ways.
All right. So we're talking about the Brrrr method, but kind of break that down for us, would you please?
Yeah. So, what Brrrr method is a quintessential real estate strategy that I think a lot of high level investors use. You might hear it in a lot of talk or whatever. People say it works, it don't work, or whatever. If it's hard for me to believe somebody's a real estate investor if they haven't used this strategy or aware of this strategy, right? And so what it is it's basically understanding how to Brrrr means buy right, B, rehab, rent, refinance, and repeat. So let's just start with the buy. And what Don was alluding to is when you buy property as an investor, specifically, you need to buy properties on discount, right? And when I say discount, it's like going to Macy's. You want to go to Macy's at the 30% off sale, right? You want to buy stuff on sale. We want to wait to buy real estate when on Prime Day, Amazon Prime Day, right? Same thing, right? You don't have to wait, but you got to learn how to buy property correctly. Buying property correctly is buying it on discount and not at retail, right? Zillow, your local MLS, your local realtor, they're selling all this real estate at retail price, right? That means the high, right? We want to buy at the low. So buying at the low, what does that mean, right? Buying at the low, it means I need a discount. Well, what type of discount should we be looking for? 30% off or the 70% rule, right? We want to buy real estate at 30% off. So when we talk about buying real estate at 30% off, what do I mean by that? How do I do that? We want to see what an area, let's just take a regular neighborhood in whatever area you in, let's say Alabama, because I think Don's from Alabama. You might have all the houses in the area selling for 100,000. That means you need to be trying to buy it at 70,000, right? You might be in a good net now. It just don't stop at the 70,000. What if this house? Because if you're buying it on discount, there's a good chance something's wrong with the house. Somebody died. Somebody got a divorce. Grandma didn't fix up the roof. Something happened to this house, or didn't happen to this house, to make it not be appealing to be able to be sold right at full price, because we want it on discount. So what we're looking for is, I wouldn't call it ugly homes or rundown homes, but we're looking for situations, right, where we can get a house on discount or 30% off. Now, typically, if you're buying something on discount, there might be a problem, right? Well, that problem might cost some money, right? Like you might need a new roof that costs 10 grand or whatever. All right, so you need a new roof that costs 10 grand. Then that means you need to be buying the house at what we call 70% minus repairs, right? Minus repairs is the key, right? So what we're saying is this whole area is selling for 100. You see a house on the street that's just vacant. Somebody left it and it needs a new roof. The new roof costs 10 grand. Okay. So that means we need to be buying this house at 60,000, 70% minus repairs at 60,000, right? So we buy that 60,000, we pump 10 grand into it. Now we're all in for 70,000 and we still have our 30% spread, right? That's the buy, right? And I just went through the rehab. The rehab is putting the 10 grand into it, and so you can fix that roof. So now you have a rentable product, right? And the reason why we need to be able to have a rentable product, because that's how we're going to make money, and that's how the bank is going to recognize that they're going to give us some money. Okay, the bank is then going to give us some money. And so why do we need the bank to give us some money? Because you just put 10 grand up, or you just put 70 grand up, and you might want to get your money back, right? And I like to get my money back sooner rather than later, right? So you go back to the bank, and that's the second R. Sorry. So first is rehab, right? Put the 10 grand in. Then we find us a good tenant. Okay, we got to go rent it out. Find you a good tenant. Tap into me if you need to figure out how to screen tenants and get good tenants, etc. You might want to find a Section 8 tenant. Let the government pay for your house, right? I'd love for the government to pay for my house, right? That's my pay for my house for me, right? And I say the government paying for it via Section 8, right? So the government pays for it. You got a good tenant in there, or anybody, right? Or short-term rental or whatever, right? You get your tenant in there. So after a couple months, you got your tenant going, you're getting some cash flow in your pocket, and you're making some money and you're happy. Well, to be happier would be to get your original funds back. And that's where you go back to the bank. And the bank will then say, hey, okay, so you're renting this out, and we want to see a 1.25 debt coverage ratio. And, we can get into deeper on that later. But they want to see certain criteria. They want to see this equity, and they want to see that you got to rent it out. So, okay, you got to rent it out. Go back to the bank, and they may give you 75%, 75 cents on the dollar, or 80 cents on the dollar, or 70 cents on the dollar. But for the most part, if you follow this formula correctly, you should be able to recoup some, if not all, and or more of the original capital that you got, right? So the ideal situation would be able to recap some of your capital. A better situation would be able to recap all those funds that you put into this property. And an awesome situation, which is what I do and I focus on, I'll be able to recapture more than what I originally put into this property, because we're forcing appreciation, right? We're forcing the value up through the rehab process. We're making this property better than what we originally thought we could do, right? And so the bank will give you your money back, and now you can go take those funds and you can do the next R, which is repeat the process, right? Because now you got your original funds and you're making cash flow from the rent and you got your money back. So why wouldn't you do this again? Because it just worked for you, right? And that's the whole BRRRR strategy in itself. It is buy, rehab, rent, refinance, And lastly, repeat the process so you can go do it all over again. Back to you, John.
Thank you, Anaje. And listen, I got a question here because I'm going to zero in specifically on the refinance part. Okay. And I want to add something to this so that real estate investors can get more money faster and cheaper by looking at the refinance process a little differently. But we have a question here from Rana. She says, a discounted house tends to attract multiple buyers and investors. How do you suggest to be the competitive buyer? Cash buyers are definitely competitive, but the other buyers are also offering cash. So I don't know if you got that.
I don't. Yeah, I don't mind. So let me be clear about something. I just ran through the Brrrr strategy in like 5 minutes. That doesn't mean each one of these things are 5 minutes, right? All of these, every piece of the Brrrr is a deep dive. Okay, acquisition, that's your B. That's a deep dive. Rehab, obviously, if y'all know construction, I mean that's a deep dive in itself, right? Finding good tenants, I mean I focus on that. That's a deep dive. So each one of these are definitely a deep dive, and that's why this is a quintessential, more advanced strategy, right? So a lot of people say, "Oh, Brrrr don't work." Well, that's just because they don't know how to do it, right? So as far as competitive discounted properties, how do you find them? Well, you got to get your acquisition game up, right? Some of that could be going direct to seller, getting on phones, becoming a wholesaler. That's probably the number one way to get a good discounted property. Or if you ain't got time for that, like I don't really have time for that, that's networking with wholesalers, right? Wholesalers are people who are out here doing that. They're the ones offering these cash. Most of these people that you're competing against that's saying, oh, I'm offering cash, they ain't got no money. They just know the strategies, right? And what you can do, like I said, for me, I don't have time to be on the phones like that no more. So what I do is I network with wholesalers to get deals in my inbox, and I get a gang of them in my inbox, and I look at properties that way, right? Or there's more advanced strategies and smart strategies, having a good, solid realtor, knowing how to offer properly, right? So cash, offering cash. You can go get a hard money loan. Hard money loan is basically like cash, right? That's a good way. That's one of the top ways a lot of Brrrr strategy people get into it, is that they use a hard money loan for cash and compete that way, right? A lot of different ways to do it. For me, I also use lines of credit, right? I'm a big line of credit guy, right? So I get lines of credit, business credit, lines of credit, et cetera, and I'm able to show cash and frankly take down the property cash. Well, not sure how you get these lines of credit. Again, this is a deep dive. So I just went over 5 strategies on how to actually compete in this market or any market for discounted properties, right? So yeah, they offer cash, but you got to understand, how are these people offering cash, and how can you also quote unquote offer cash? And when we say offer cash, that doesn't necessarily mean physical cash that you are physically using from your life. That could be using other people's cash, because you've learned the strategies on how to find. See, finding the properties is actually the hard part. Offering cash is not. And that might sound backwards to you, but it ain't, right? And I know this to be true because this is what we do, right? So if you can get in the mix, if you can start looking, if you know how to hunt, if you know what a deal look like, money will always find you, right? Money flows to where the deals are at, right? If you don't know how to find no deal, there ain't no money coming your way. But if you know how to find a deal, there are people that will finance your deal, right? You can get a JV partner. You can get partners. You can get a hard money loan, guys. You can get partners. You get private money loan. You can get HELOCs. You can use different strategies to go acquire these properties. So I hope that's a little bit long-winded, but I hope that gives you a frame of reference. But it is a little bit. It's a massive deep dive to check that out. One of my good friends on this app, Sean Ackerman, he has a room on Wednesdays, and he talks about investing out of state, but he's also a direct to seller person. So he talks about, I know he teaches specifically how to go out and acquire property direct to seller on discount. So you're not out here bidding against everybody on Zillow or whatnot. You can do that as well, but there's a strategy for it. I would just tell you, hey, come hang around me a little bit. Come hang around some of the real estate folks, and you definitely can figure out how to take down this kind of properties. Back to you.
Thank you, Anaje. I just had Flame come into the room. Flame, you listen. You're more than welcome. Raise your hand. I tried to invite you up. Come up to the stage, Flame, and we'll put in your 2 cents. And I have Miss Lovejoy here. Miss Lovejoy, how are you doing this morning?
Good. How are you?
Excellent. How do you pronounce your first name?
Tanaya.
Hi, Tanaya. So, do you have a question or
Hi.
comment this morning?
Yes, my question is for Onaje. I currently have a HELOC that I haven't used yet. My question for you is using that HELOC, have you ever had to leave some of your down payment into the deal? Because when you went to refinance out, it didn't appraise as high as you wanted to. And how did you navigate paying off that HELOC? You had to leave money in the deal.
Yeah, I have. I've got, again, I'm transparent. You're not always gonna get that money out on the Brrrr, as I just kind of hinted, right? Sometimes that's the ideal situation to get most of your money out. You may not always get your money out. And I have let money in the deal. What what I've done is it comes back down to underwriting. So number one, you need to make sure that you're underwriting properly, and know how to underwrite up front, right? So, if you are in a situation where you're anticipating having to leave money in the deal, then you got to ask yourself, is this a great deal or not? That's number one, right? Like, that's real talk, right? Because for me, that I always talk, whenever you ever hear me talk about it tonight, I've seen it in plenty of rooms, right? So if you ever really hear me talk about deals and how to and underwriting, I always talk about from a personal perspective, right? You have to set your own criteria. So if it's in your criteria, right, to get all your HELOC money back, then that's how you need to be looking at the types of deals that you're looking at. Like, that's just real, right? If you don't want to have that stuck in there. Now, I've had money, lines of credit stuck in there, or whatever before. Not a ton of money, but I've had it. And what I do is I'm making sure that the rent, right? See, that's why I said each one of these components is a massive, massive, massive class in itself, right? Because you want to make sure that you're doing this properly, right? So part of it is I want to make sure that my rents are covering both of these situations, right? The rent's covering the back end, big loan, the term debt, and it's covering the down payment piece to the HELOC or whatever. If it's not covering both and you needed to cover both, then you know what? We might need to get a different type of deal, right? And and that's really important, right? A HELOC isn't um I wouldn't call it's an instrument that can be dangerous if used improperly, but it can be amazing if used properly, right? So the key component is definitely the rent, right? If you're not renting, that means you're not covering the mortgage, covering both mortgages or whatever your encumbrances are, right? So, and that's the key. The rent got to cover everything, not just whatever your costs are, right? And all of our costs are going to be different because we're going to go about these situations very differently, right? So your rents, whatever that is, need to be able to cover all of that, right? Repairs, vacancy, home warranty, if you put a home warranty on it, the back end loan, the whatever HELOC portion for the down payment you have. I would just make sure that your rents are covering that in those situations. Be very intentional about what type of upgrades you put in, right? How much can you force appreciation and or rent? Right? Because that's what we're trying to do. And I'm not gonna lie, in the environment that we're in right now, yes, appraisal is gonna start not necessarily coming back to where they need to be. On some of these HELOCs, interest rates are extremely high right now, or higher than whatever right now. And that's why we're in Don's room to learn how to mitigate that. So yeah, I've been there before, but again, I want to make sure that you're really, really underwriting. And when you underwrite, don't underwrite off of what you can do. Underwrite based on worst case scenario. Worst case scenario, I can rent for this. Worst case scenario, rehab is going to be this big number. We try to beat it. So we underwrite based on worst case scenario, and then we try to beat it along the way. Right, we try to beat the rehab budget. Rehab budget is 30 grand, and in the worst case scenario, but we're trying to get it to 25. Right, worst case scenario, I can rent this for 1,500, and we trying to rent it for 1,700, right? Because we put a little bit extra in it or whatever, right? So that's kind of how I'm trying to go about it. But I'll be honest with you, I'm definitely if if I'm in the situation now, if you're in a situation, I don't know if you're in a situation now or you're just underwriting or whatever. If you're in a situation now, then definitely here's Tanaya. One thing I also want to remind you, because this is a lot of misnomers. I'm sorry, Don, for taking over
No,
talking to you,
man. Listen, this
but
is this is perfect. We need to set the stage, and you're doing exactly what we need you to do today. Thank you.
okay. So tonight, one of the things I want to make sure I'm very, very clear on, because I hear a lot of misinformation from people out here trying to teach bird strategy and ain't never done it, or maybe they did it on one property and they think they're an expert, but they're not. And let me tell you something. You don't have to like. This is your journey. So for me, when I'm dealing with my apartment buildings, I'm not getting no refinance, no 6 months. That's not even realistic, right? When you talk to large syndicators and large apartment owners and things of that nature, their exit, which is typically a refinance or a sale, they talking about years. They talking 2, 3, 4, 5 years. So if you got most of your money back, right? Remember I said you can get most of your money back. Don't feel like you have failed, or if you can cover it, that's the key, right? Can you cover it with the rents? Can you float? Can you whatever with the rents? Because that's really, because for me, if you're using a HELOC plus regular finance and that 80/20 loan type of thing I was talking about in the other room, if you're doing that as a strategy or whatnot, and the rents ain't covering it, yeah, for me, that's really not a good deal. That's not a really great situation, right? Because there's really no point, right? But if you can cover it, and maybe the bank ain't necessarily, and again, key is the bank may not give you all your money back, but you can still cover it with the rents. So for me, I focus on the rents, right? If you can cover it with the rents, you're okay, and make a profit, that's good. If you can't cover with the rents and not make a profit, that ain't good, right? Now, just because the bank don't give you all your money back, that's okay. Why is it okay? Because you can always go back. You can always go back in favorable times, right? You can always. I have many properties, and I'm not capping here. I have several properties that I have used HELOCs on. I have refinanced multiple times. My personal home, I still live in my personal home. That's my first investment property. That property has bought 4 other properties, and when I say bought 4 other properties, that's what I mean. That's what it's done. It bought 4 other properties. I refinanced it 4 times. That might sound insane to somebody in the audience, right? But that was part of my strategy, and we were able to get that done. And I still don't really owe nothing on that property, right? Because what the benefit is, and that's why I support Don's room, is because you can do what I'm talking about, and then you advance the strategy on the payoff. That's what Don is talking about, right? He's talking about how to accelerate your payoffs. You see what I'm saying? So you can accrue more equity quicker. So when you do go back to the bank, you're not in this situation where they hold on to your money, right? So again, we can get equity multiple ways. We can get equity through, again, my quintessential way, which is forcing equity up, meaning increasing the value of the property. But then now we might be in economic times where interest rates are high, and properties are starting to tip out to where there's no more forcing equity that way. But what we don't talk about enough is what Don's way, right? Forcing equity from the bottom down through the debt itself, right? Reducing the debt, reducing your principal, accelerating it, right? Before I got on this app, for me, I was a biweekly payment guy. I still do biweekly payments, right? You can do again more advanced strategies. That's what Don teaches or whatever. That's what he talks about in this room, is being able to accelerate the equity down. So again, one, if you're not in that situation just yet, I would say look for a better deal. If you are in a situation right now where you might have to leave some of that HELOC in, just figure out, make sure you focus more on being able to cover the rents via Section 8, because Section 8 might be paying more in your area, or short-term rentals or mid-term rentals, whatever, to where you can hey, I want to holler at you right quick. Um, Sorry about that. One of my properties. But yeah, I'm literally that Sunday mornings. I like drive my properties or whatever. But you can accelerate your payoff more, right? And then you build your equity back up, and then you go back and go get it, do it again, right? So it's okay as long as you're covering the rents. That's why I focus so much on rents, because that's where you make the money at. That's how the banks evaluate the situation, right? So if you in a deal and you like, oh, I ain't got my money stuck, blah blah, I want to get my money back, blah blah. Okay, then force your rents. Focus on that. Focus on midterm, short term, whatever your game is. Housing the homeless. All these strategies that you're hearing about make it cash flow, then raise your cash flow. And then on the flip side, at the same time, you focus on these these strategies that Don teaches, right? Which is reducing your principal, right? Reducing what you owe. See, when you reduce what you owe, right, then your equity goes up too, and then the bank will eventually get your money back. So I wouldn't just don't look at this as a short term. This is a long term game, and if you can get by until you get your money back, that's the key. So I focus on the get by. Don is for the get by is the rents, and Don is focused on increasing your equity. That's really what we're talking about here, increasing your equity more, right? So then the bank will play with you even more. So I hope that answers your question. A little bit long winded, but remember, just because some other coach out here talking about, well, do your Brrrr and get your money back in 6 to 9 months. I mean, and I won't call that BS, but that for me sometimes it's kind of BS. You can do that, but remember, time is your ally in real estate if you are a buy and hold investor, right? Burst by buy and hold, right? So if you are a buy and hold investor, time works for you, right? Time is fine. I'm good with time. Time is my best friend. I'm sitting over here in my 21 unit complex right now. We bought it and we did our cash out refi about 2.5 years in. I got all my money back plus a couple other $100,000 on top. But to be frank with you, I did not get as much as I initially anticipated. Am I crying about it? No, because you know what? Time is my friend. You see what I'm saying? And I was able to lock into a cheap interest rate on a big ass building, and I'm good with that. And guess what? That gave my wife, who's my property manager, it gave her time to raise rents even more, right? So and we did our refinance about a year and a half ago. In that year and a half time, our average rents on each one of these units is up about another $200 a month per unit, right? So that's hella cash. That's way more cash flow now. That's about 2,000. Well, no, it's about $4,000 more in cash flow. So whenever we want to go back to the bank, which we're strategically waiting, right? Because I'm not in a rush, because I understand time, right? So because we already got our money, and now we can go back and get our money again if we want to today. We're not doing it today because I got a cheap interest rate. But when the interest rates get to more of a favorable position, I can go back and the bank will give me more money because we raised our rents. So I hope that kind of brings a little bit more full circle how all of this works together, right? The rent, the buying it correctly, the refinance, the rehab, the rents, all that stuff works together. You see what I'm saying? So I hope that helps tonight.
Tanaya, how?
Yes, it does.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Tanaya. Do,
Uh,
do you have an additional question?
oh no, I was gonna say thank you so much. I do appreciate it because I do have a property under contract. I'm looking to add a bedroom to it, and my plan is to do Section 8. So I'm in the process of trying to learn more about Section 8 and hopefully get it rented out that way to increase the cash flow. But I may end up having to leave about 5 to 6K in the deal. So I just want to know your opinion. And then hopefully in the future, once I get some properties under my belt, just cross
I don't.
collateralize those properties
Yeah, I
so
mean,
I
you're
won't
talking
have
about
to use
five to
it.
six thousand dollars. That's not a big deal
No.
tonight, really. I don't think it should be
Okay.
a big deal. That's not a look. Don't let other people's social media commentary dictate what works for you. If you feel like it works for you, it sounds like a sound plan. I like how you're thinking, right? When you add a bedroom, it seems like I'm already there with you, right? You're adding a bedroom, and for the people in the audience, what she's talking about, she's adding a bedroom because Section 8 pays by the bedroom, right? So when Section 8 pays by the bedroom, that means you get more money. So automatically, that's forcing value, right? When you add a bedroom to the property, 9 times out of 10, you're gonna add value. The key is making sure that you're adding that bedroom effectively, and that's the only other piece I would make sure you're doing, right? In Houston, we do that a lot. I've done that a lot. 1,000 square foot property. If you got 1,000 square foot property, it's a 2 bedroom, 1 bath. Man, that's a prime candidate to add a bedroom. Prime candidate, right? Get that to a 3-1. Now you're making more money, right? 1,000 square feet is definitely a 3 bedroom size. That's a gem for the room, guys. If y'all want to looking for deals and opportunities, find you a large 2 bedroom property. A 2-2 is a prime candidate, right? If you find you a small 2-2, a 2 bedroom, 2 bath, and it's over 1,000 square feet, figure out a way to add a bedroom, convert that garage into a bedroom, right? Bedrooms are worth more than garages, y'all, right? And particularly with Section 8, you coupling that together, fantastic strategy, Tanaya, right? I really do believe that. Again, don't know all the numbers, but I like how you're thinking, right? That's the kind of thought process that we're talking about when we're talking about forcing equity, right? That's a good mindset, right? And I'm not sure if you've been able to take my Section 8 course, but DM me on that. You know, I kind of go through all that whole process or whatever. But definitely a fantastic strategy. You talking about 5 or 6 grand? I mean, I ain't in your pockets or whatever, but that don't really seem like a whole lot of money to be tripping about. The key is, will those rents cover that mortgage over time? Both of those, right? If you got 5 grand left, you're not talking about a whole lot. If it's on the HELOC, you're just paying interest only, so you can just make the interest only payments to get by, right, until that property gets to a place where you're good with. So I hope that.
Anaje, thank you so much. Listen, man, you've been dropping a lot of knowledge in here. Could you, before you leave, could you tell us a little bit about your Wealth Mastermind Academy and how you teach this? And then you also have events. So, how do you get this information out to the people so that they can listen? Coming in this room for just a few minutes, that may not be enough. How do they get more?
Yeah, man, I appreciate it, Don. If you don't mind, I'll temporarily just link up at the chat at the top. If that's okay.
Go right ahead, please.
Yeah, so guys, what I have is the Wealth Masterminds Academy. It's a little bit different. The mindset, our mission, as you can see at the top, is building freedom one door at a time, right? We're not out here trying to get to 100 doors tomorrow, right? We want to slow grow, and then we'll accelerate our way up. Yes, I'm the founding member of the Wealth Masterminds Academy, but I do this in conjunction with the community, right? What does that mean, right? So my partner is Brandy Sams. If y'all know her on the app, she is a phenomenal lender. Phenomenal. I haven't really met anybody that strategically chose her. So she's taking the lending side. I'm taking the investment side. But more importantly, this is a true community. So it's not just me out here teaching classes, right? We bring in coaches, and this is really about all of us growing together, right? So most of my classes are taught by me, Brandy, and or a conglomerate. I believe, and this is no cap, we did some preliminary math. There's over $300 million of average of inventory being managed by the members of this group, right? The members of this group own over $300 million because we kind of been doing some tallying up on who owns what type of deal, right? But we've got all kind of people in there, man. There's definitely over 3 members that own over 100 doors, right? One member owns over 200. We got several. I got one member specifically. I know he owns over $200 million worth of real estate, all in the commercial space. So we have commercial investors, right? We've got different type of people teaching classes. That's the game. We've got wholesalers in there. So one thing about me, and I'm very transparent, I teach and I help with what I know. And if I don't know it, or if I'm not an expert, or if I know someone who might know it just 10% better than me, I'm gonna bring them in to help. And that's the whole goal of the academy. Right now, we do offer a 50% discount code. At the top is WMA50. You can see if you click on the link at the top, there's a green bar that says discount code. So that's for my clubhouse friends. It's very, very affordable. I can tell you right now, we will not be at this price in 6 months. Right now, we're just building a community organically, and we're teaching classes. All classes are recorded, and you can buy the classes separately, or you can kind of just join the academy. It makes way more sense to just join the academy because you get we're doing classes probably every 2 weeks. Next week's class I say next week on the 20th, next Thursday, the class I'm doing, I think it is on acquisition, deal or no deal. I think last week was deal or no deal. So we went through underwriting for about 3 or 4 hours. This week we'll go through how to find deals, different ways to structure deals. I'm bringing in some wholesalers and some people to go direct to seller, and then I'll teach a lot of realtors. That's kind of what I specialize on, is I teach people how to find deals on the MLS. So that's kind of what we'll be doing. August classes, it is on property management. Me and my wife will be doing property management along with 2 other people. And then we've got a couple, then the week after that, we got the legal team coming in to talk about fair and housing laws nationwide. And then we got multifamily. We got a whole bunch of classes. So anyway, that's what the academy is about. I appreciate the love, Don, and I'll be here for half a second if anybody else has.
Thank you very much for that, Onaje. Listen, folks, we spent the first hour just breaking it down on what buying these properties using the Brrrr method means. And you want to be able to do what Onaje was talking about is you want to be able to buy it right. You want to buy it below market, right? You want to buy a deal. So you buy it low and you sell it high. Doggone it. That's the key to business. And then when you rehab it, he didn't dig down deep on the rehab, but my goodness, you don't want to overpay on the rehab either. You want to work with people that you know, that you can trust, and you want to keep your costs low because you're trying to get under that either at that 70 or below that 70% threshold, so that when you go get that bank money to get your money out, you can still make money on the deal because it will cash flow. Cash flow is king on this thing. So even if you have to leave a little bit of money in the deal, like the $5,000 or $6,000 that Tanai was talking about, your cash flow will pay you back. All right, get in the deal. Get in the deal. That's what we're talking about. But right now, folks, I want to talk to you about something. And if you are in the room and you want to see over this last hour what we're getting ready to talk about, how to refi, do the refi part, keep your costs low, like every other part of this. Let me tell you something. Every other part of this, the real estate investors will tell you how to keep your costs low and your profits high. I want to add one more piece: how to borrow the money at a discount. And no one that teaches the Brrrr method is talking about how to borrow the money at a discount, which will definitely increase your profits. So we're going to talk about that right after this reset. We're in the Mortgage Syndicate this morning. And if you're not a member of the room, go up to the top, click on Mortgage Syndicate and join this room today. A lot of good information is being given out here Monday through Friday from 6 a.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern time. And you get a lot of good information throughout the week. We partner with the Mortgage Syndicate on Sundays. We have the P.I.L.L method house. P.I.L.L method stands for prepayment of principal, isolating the principal amount, leverage, and liquidity. But we're going to get in today how you can increase profits by adding the P.I.L.L method strategies to the Brrrr method strategies in a way that most people have no idea of what's really going on. And not only that, but there's no guesswork involved here. We have the only cloud-based AI computing system that will help you to figure all these numbers out and tell you exactly what to do so that you can cut your interest costs on these loans by about 75%. Not your interest rate, your interest cost. You can control how much interest you pay on these loans more than you think. And we're going to get to that in just a minute. So go ahead and join the room, then click on my avatar and go ahead and join the P.I.L.L method house as well, so you can get that information. But I just want to say, before we jump into it, I just want to say good morning to Miss Yolanda Sells, Michigan, because I'm from Michigan. I couldn't help but say something to her. So Yolanda, thank you so much for being here. What do you have to say to the folks this morning?
Hey, good now, as they say, to all of you. Thank you so much. I came in at the tail end of Anaje's comments, and he said something that was confirming for me, is that I am encouraging, what do you call it, voluntelling my husband to that he will be my property manager as a LLC, of course, in a nice way to do it, so that we can keep more money in house. So appreciate his wife acting in that role. So shout out to couples making it happen. And I'm all about that Brrrr life. I am in Michigan, as you mentioned, and there are still some municipalities, some cities that are good to invest in if you have the right systems and support in place. I'm also in the process of embarking on my first ever refi of my own home. And it's been a journey of about, I don't know, years, but specifically over the last year, really honing in on how I use my credit. Sometimes you hear from people about if you get a credit card, don't use it. And there's a lot of people with credit cards in the ice box, in a chunk of ice because they're told not to use it. Where the real rationale is use some of it and pay it and just do that. So if you have $35 to put in your gas tank, put that $35 gas outlay, put that on the card and just pay that card back the next day. You don't have to wait till it's due. So little things like that, really hacking the system has enabled me to finally take some cash out of my own home so that I can be in a position to take advantage of what I know. So I'm a licensed agent in Michigan. I'm a soon to be investor. And at this point, I find that for me, the Brrrr method is the one that I prefer. But I also have friends and family with a little bit of liquidity and am looking at embarking in a real estate investor club, if you will, modeled after some of the clubs that you guys have talked about, where I'm the managing partner and they are more so silent. And it would be more of the flip model because I just don't really see the vision on the Brrrr for like a group at this point, just because I'm still learning some of the ropes. But there's so much to learn. It's like a drinking through a fire hose. And I guess where I would land, Don, is simply the whole part about refinancing it years sooner, because I do work with sellers who are concerned about being house poor, just all those different concerns that homeowners are giving me when I ask them, are they looking to sell? And I want to be able to really help them understand that you'll be able to pay down whatever loan you get much, much faster, but still going with that 30-year. So I learned so much from you, and I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to speak today. I hope everyone's having a great Sunday.
Certainly. Listen, we're going to jump right into it right now. I want to talk about that very thing. When can you cash out refi? When can I take that cash out that Anaje and Yolanda was talking about? When can we take that money out and use it again? Anaje talked about refinancing his property 4 different times, getting that cash out and letting it work. Listen, folks, you may have $100,000 or $200,000 in equity and feel good about it, but if it's just sitting there, equity can evaporate like nobody's business if you are not careful. Just sitting on it is not good. So let me talk to you about most of my residential clients are paying off all of their debt. That is their mortgages, their student loans, their credit cards, everything, their car loans in about 7 to 9 years. They want to get out of debt. Let me tell you, real estate investors, Brrrr, who use the Brrrr method, they're not looking to get out of debt. They're looking to grow equity faster and cheaper, take the cash out and use it again and develop more net worth. Okay. So they may never be out of debt. So there's nothing wrong with that. But how do you leverage that money so that it helps you? So we're going to add a component to that so that in anything that you do, whether it's buying the property, buying it right, rehabbing the property, rehabbing it right, renting it, oh my gosh, you definitely want to rent that property right so that you can cash flow. All right. And then when you get that mortgage, you get your cash out, then you can use that cash again. But now you have a long-term 30-year loan. Here's what you don't want to do. All right. You don't want to pay retail for that money that you have now a 30-year loan on and think that your tenant is paying the rent. We're going to stop that. I want to end that fallacy today, that your tenant is paying the rent. No, your tenant does not, I'm sorry, paying the mortgage. Your tenant is not paying your mortgage. You pay your mortgage. You or your entity that you control paying the mortgage. Your tenant pays rent to you. And when they pay rent to you, then you take that money and then you pay the mortgage. So here's what I need you to see right now. Cash flow is great, but stop giving that money away that the tenant gives you. Stop giving it 80% of it away. It makes no sense. I want you to see these numbers now. If you are in Clubhouse right now and you want to see the numbers I'm getting ready to put on the screen, take a secondary device, go to YouTube and search for P.I.L.L method and click on the live right now so that you can see these numbers so that we can add another metric to the Brrrr method and call it ICE Brrrr, interest cancellation expert Brrrr, and how you can increase profits today on how all of this works, and then have a computer run the whole thing to take the guesswork out of it. But I'm going to give you some basics right now. So we're going to put a $200,000 mortgage on the screen, okay? And remember, listen, start inviting some folks in here. Start inviting some folks in here right now so that they can see these numbers. And I need somebody to do me a favor. And if you're watching this online, get the link and then put it in the chat as well, so new people can come in and put that in the chat. So I have a $200,000 mortgage right now. All right. We did everything right. We bought this property right. We rehabbed it right. And we're renting it outright. We're cash flowing like crazy on this property, but now we have a $200,000 mortgage at 7%. So here's the first thing you have to acknowledge. The bank just purchased $200,000 of your equity. They now own it so that you can cash flow. And that's perfectly okay. All right. But you are now purchasing that equity back. You need to build that equity up. And then most people are trying to rely on market conditions. And you know what happens when we totally just rely on market conditions to create equity. So a lot of times it does. All right. But let's say you can help it out some. Here's what's happening when you borrow money. The bank is purchasing your equity and now you're buying it back a little bit at a time. A $200,000 mortgage at 7%. Your payment is $1,330.60. $1,330.60. So $1,330.60. Now you got your taxes and insurance that go on top of that. And now you want to be able to rent it out for more than the principal and interest and the taxes and insurance. Okay. We can add another 20% to that or so. So if you can, let's say you're in an area where this would rent out for about $2,000 a month. All right. So now you're cash flowing. And for a lot of real estate investors, that's where it stops, because now they're receiving rent money that is paying for the house. And they're saying, my renter is creating equity for me. Let me show you what is really happening with that money. So when the money comes in, you're purchasing that equity back. And so now when they make that very first payment on this loan at 7%, $163.93 goes towards principal. That means you just bought $163.93 of your equity back. All right. But it cost $1,166.67 of the money your tenant gave you to purchase that equity. I want to ask you a question right now, everybody in the room who are watching me online right now. Is $1,166.67 too much to pay to purchase $163 in equity, no matter who gives you the money? Yes or no? Is that too much to pay? Yes or no? Put it in the chat and start inviting some people in here. Okay. Brandy said, yes, it's too much. I need you to start looking at this thing differently. I need you to take a look at it differently so that you can stop giving that money to the bank. Now, let's break down. Horace Jennings says yes. He's online. He's watching us on YouTube. let me break down some numbers for you right now. I'm going to put something on the screen. I'm put my calculator on the screen, and I want to show you something. And Husan Thompson says, yeah. He says it differently, but he says yes too. Okay. So now I have 1,000. The very first interest payment is $1,166.67. My total mortgage payment is $1,330. So if I divide my interest payment by my total payment, watch this. I'm going to divide it by the $1,330.60. Watch what happens. 87%. 87% of the money my tenant gave me to pay for this mortgage, 87% of it went to interest. Can I break that down another way? And you tell me if this makes sense to you. I'm making money on the front end because I'm cash flowing. And I'm not thinking about the fact that I just made a mortgage payment with that money my tenant gave me. I'm certainly not looking at the fact that 87% of that money went to interest. In other words, out of every dollar that went to the mortgage, out of every dollar, 87 cents of that dollar went to interest. That means I'm buying my property back from the bank at 13 cents out of every dollar. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't care who's giving you the money. If somebody gives you all of that money, do you want to take 13 cents out of that dollar and say, I get to keep 13 cents out of the dollar, but the bank gives me, I'm going to pay the bank 87 cents for the privilege, and I'm going to feel good about that? Are you going to feel good about that? Yes or no? Do you feel good about the fact that in this, Horace Jenner says, wow. All right. So this is what we're talking about, ladies and gentlemen. Do you want to keep paying 13 cents for your equity and giving 87 cents to the bank? This is what economists call the house money effect. The house money effect. When let's say if you go to the casino and you're winning at the casino, do you treat the house money? That means you're playing with house money. You brought some money to the casino, right? You brought some money in, but now you won some money. You play differently with house money than you do with the money you brought to the casino, don't you? You're a little more liberal. You take a few more chances. You don't really care if you lose that money. And what I'm trying to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, is you need to care about all of your money. Okay? Because if you're cash flowing $200, $300, even $500 every month on this, you care about that money. You also care about the taxes you're going to pay on that money. And so now you want to try to keep as much of that money because that is money. You look at that differently, the cash flow part, than the part that's going to the mortgage, because now that's house money. I can be okay with the 13 cents and give away 87 cents of that. But when it comes to my $200, $300, $400, $500 cash flow on the deal, I want to try to keep as much as I can on that. And we have hundreds of tax strategies that we can employ to keep that money. But guess what? We don't have any strategies that we're employing to keep that interest money we just paid out to the bank, that 87 cents. 87%. Now, I need you to take a look at this. All right. All right. So now we're going to take a look at, when you take a look, I need everybody, even Mr. Ellis, Jose, I need you to take a look on seeing the numbers make sense. Go to our YouTube channel, search P.I.L.L method, and look at these numbers. So here's what I am not saying. All right, I want to make this very clear. If you're a real estate investor, you have earmarked a certain amount of your money to go to investing out of the monies you're bringing in. Out of that rent money you're bringing in, you're going to set aside a certain percentage of that money that you're bringing in to invest in other properties. I'm saying don't change the formula. Keep that money going into your portfolio to grow your portfolio. Whatever that percentage is, make sure you don't touch it. Continue to invest in other properties. I don't want to touch a dime of that money. I want to make that very clear to real estate investors. Don't touch a dime of that money. That way, we can now clear our heads so that we don't misunderstand what Don is saying. He's saying, don't invest that money, use that money to save interest. No, I am not saying that. I want to be very clear on that right now. Okay, so let's invest that money. All right, so here's what I also need you to take a look at. How can we continue to invest and not give the bank all of this interest money? So in 1 year on this loan, here's what happens. I pay out, I'm going to pay this loan down by $2,031. I need you to take a look at cumulative principal and cumulative interest. I'm going to pay this loan down by $2,031.55. Okay. But it's going to cost me $13,000 in interest. $13,000 in interest. You see, when real estate investors are doing their calculations, I guarantee you they're not using these numbers to add into their calculation, or they would look at what they're doing just a little bit differently. Out of the money my tenant gave me, I just gave away $13,935.65 to interest that I cannot invest. But I get to keep the $2,031.55 in equity, but I paid almost $14,000 to get it. All right. So now let me show you what I'm talking about. I'm just going to give you some basics here. All right. Remember, we're not touching the money that's going to investment. I need you to see what happens when you can give the bank back the money that you owe them. Listen, folks, you borrowed $200,000. You're not going to pay back more than $200,000 in principal. You can't by contract. You can only give them the money that you borrowed from them plus the interest. The principal doesn't change. So what I'm asking you is this: do you want to continue to let the bank dictate when you give them money, or can you change the timing on which you give back the money you owe? You give back the money you owe at a time when it makes it impossible for the bank to charge you interest on the money you owe. My goodness. What if you could borrow money from the bank at 0% interest? Wouldn't that be great? The next best loan is to borrow money at as little interest as you can possibly pay, but still be able to invest. Oh my goodness. That's what we're talking about. That's what we're talking about, ladies and gentlemen. So watch this. Watch this. I need to show you what happens when you're trying to save money by you choosing to give money to the bank. All right. I need you to see this. And this is just the basics. And then we're going to add on. In the very first payment, let's say you make your very first payment in January on this loan, $163.93 goes to principal and $1166.67 goes to interest in the very first month. Let's call it January. When you're looking at this loan, you can see February's principal payment. The bank takes the principal payment here, the principal balance, does a computation and says, this is how much interest you are going to owe me on the next line. This is how much interest you owe on the next line. And then because you owe less, you're going to pay less interest. And the difference goes to principal. So you pay a little bit more principal and a little less interest on every single line. Okay, watch this. So if I make my payment in January, I just got $163 in equity, cost me $11.66 to get it. If I make my payment in February, I get an additional $164.89 in principal, but it only cost me $1,165.71 of the money my tenant gave me to purchase that. Or if I look at it this way, now I am not telling you how my program works yet. I'm just telling you how a mortgage works so that you can learn how to manipulate the mortgage, all right, to save you money. Watch this. Remember, this is not my plan. This is just how the bank does what they do. And I'm going to tell you how to disrupt it. So January's payment goes out. You can take a look at February's $164.89. Here's my question. Do I have to wait till February to give the bank the $164.89 they're looking for? Do I have to wait till February to give them that $164.89? Okay. All right. Yolanda says, yes. Yes to disrupting. Yes to disrupting. Do I have to wait? All right. So let me see here. I'm taking a look and see if I've got anybody else wanting to come to the stage. So if you're a moderator, help me out because I've got several screens to watch. All right. So Yolanda says, no, you don't have to wait. You do not have to wait. So we're going to invite that person up. Okay, watch this, ladies and gentlemen. So if I have, good morning, Steve. If I have made my mortgage payment, and what if I decide I have $164.89, not out of the money, watch this, not out of the money that I have earmarked to reinvest. I don't want to touch that. But also, real estate investors have a certain amount of money that they're putting in a separate account so that they can do repairs and maintenance on their properties. Okay. So remember, they've got money going to investment, and then they have money on the side. A little bit of that money goes into an account so that they can have the cash to do repairs and maintenance on the properties. So out of that money, I'm saying, what if they said, you know what? That money's just sitting there in the bank making 1/10 of 1%. You know, I have $5,000, $10,000 in that account. Could I borrow $164.89 of that money that's sitting in an account making 1/10 of 1%? What if I decide to prepay that? That's money I owe the bank, but I'm going to choose when to give it to the bank. I'm going to give it to the bank in January along with my regular payment. Do you realize I'm paid down to line 2 on my mortgage right then and there? I'm paid already because all of that money goes to principal. None of it goes to interest. So when I give that money to the bank, I eliminate line 2 from my amortization schedule. What just happened? I just collapsed the amortization schedule where payment number 1 is now touching payment number 3. Payment number 2 is gone because I gave the bank the $164.89 early. I chose when to give it to them. So what happened to the $1,165.71 in interest the bank was looking for? What happens to that? It goes away. It is canceled. It is eliminated. I don't have to pay the bank. My overall interest cost on this loan is $279,000 if I just make the minimum payments. I just reduced that by $1,165.71. And here's my question, ladies and gentlemen, to you. Okay, here's my question to you. Did I just get my $164.89 worth of equity for free? Yes or no? Yes or no? Did I get my $164.89 in equity for free? Yes or no? I'm waiting. I'm looking for answers in the chat. I'm looking for answers online in the comment section. That interest that the bank was looking for, did I just get it for free? Listen, Patricia Robertson says yes. Brandy says yes. Don, you got it for free. I did not have to pay $1,165.71 for it. I got it for free because I chose when to give that money to the bank. So don't think of it as extra money. Look at it as money you already owe, but you chose when to give it to the bank. And now it saves me $1,165.71. Now, I have talked to real estate investors before, and they said, Don, even the $164, I don't want to prepay, because if I have that money sitting over here, I can invest it and get a 16% cash on cash return. Have you heard it? Why pay off this 7% mortgage when you could take that $164.89 and invest that too and get a 16 to 20% cash on cash return? Can I show you the real numbers here? The real numbers are right here. This is what we are not looking at. So if a penny saved is a penny earned, this is pennies I don't have to pay. I just got my equity and I didn't have to give the bank $1,165 to get it. So if I'm going to save $1,100, it was Benjamin Franklin that said that, by the way, a penny saved is a penny earned. 1165.71. All right. And you can check my math. If there are any math teachers in here, check the math and they'll tell you that this is correct. Divide it by the amount that I prepay, which is $164.89. I chose to give that to the bank at a time when it makes it impossible for them to charge me interest. So I'm going to divide that by 164.89. Look at that. Move the decimal point 2 places to the right. That means that's a 706% return on my money. Folks, that beats a 15 or 16% cash on cash return. It beats it like a rented mule. Come on, ladies and gentlemen, let's stop giving all that money to the bank. Who do you think is behind the education to continue to pay this kind of interest so that we can make 16% when we really could be making 706% return on our money right here? Let's take a look at 1 year on this loan. Let's take a look at 1 year on this loan. 1 year on the loan, $2,031.55 goes to principal, $935.65 goes to interest. Let me bring my calculator back up again. So we're going to add this up. How much did my tenant give me? And how much did I give to the bank? Okay. We're going to add $13,935.65. This is how much we gave. All right. And we also gave them $2,000. So we're going to add it, $2,031.55. Boom. That's $15,967.20 that went to the mortgage that my tenant gave me. Let me ask you something right now. I'm asking you, everybody in the room under the sound of my voice, I'm asking all of you, please give me $15,967.20 and I will invest it for you. Give me $15,967 of your money and I will invest it for you. 1 year later, I will return to you $2,031.55, and that's all I'm going to give you. You give me $15,000, nearly $16,000. Give me nearly $16,000, and I will return to you $2,031.55. That's all I'm going to return to you. Would you want to invest with me again? Yes or no? Yes or no? Steve Mack says no. Who else says no? Would you want to invest with me if all I gave you back out of your 16 grand was $2,000? Steve Mack says not just no, he says never. Okay. Patricia Robertson says no. Why are real estate investors saying that this is okay then? Why is all I'm trying to do is add to everything else they're doing. I'm not taking away any of the other monies that the real estate investors are making. All I am saying is stop giving this kind of money to the bank when you don't have to. Let's just say that now we have 15,000. I'm making a note here, 15,967.20. All right. And the amount of interest that we pay, is 13,000. Watch this. $13,935.65. This is how much interest we pay in the first year. Let's divide it by the total amount of money that we gave to the bank that our tenants gave us. Okay, so that is divided by 15,967.20 equals 87%. Ladies and gentlemen, in the first year on this loan, out of the monies that my tenant gave me, 87 cents out of every dollar in the first year went up in smoke, went to the bank. And 13 cents out of every dollar that my tenant gave me went to purchase the equity. And this is what I'm supposed to be satisfied with, because I've been told that my tenant is actually creating equity for me at 13 cents out of every dollar. Let me ask you something. All right. And again, I am not explaining how my program works. I'm explaining now just how the mortgage company is taking advantage of the fact that we've never had a class on amortization. We've never had a class on how the bank makes their money. We never had a class on how much they're actually making and what we can do about it. I'm giving you some insights on what you can do about it. Here's my question to you. If I know that I'm going to be paying $2,031 to principal eventually, here's my question. Do I have to pay it to the bank in 12 monthly installments? Yes or no? Okay. Sam, mortgages don't let you prepay. Jeff Ram. Jeff, go read your mortgage statement. All right. And just pull out your mortgage papers. Okay. And in there, it says you have the right to prepay. It's written in your contract. All right. So some people, guess what, folks? If we've never been taught, if we've never had a class on it, how do you know that to be true? Some mortgages don't let you prepay. No, some mortgages don't let you prepay without a penalty. Okay. Some don't let you prepay without a penalty. So here's what you need to ask. All right. Here's what you need to ask. How much does it cost to prepay? Because that's the penalty. How much does it cost to prepay? Keep that in mind. All right. Because if they're going to charge me a prepayment penalty, then how much is the prepayment penalty? Once I find that out, you see, if I haven't done the math to find out what the penalty is, and if I haven't done the math to see what the benefit is from prepaying, then all I'm doing is running scared. And I'm going to continue to give the bank what they're asking for without doing the math to find out what is the prepayment penalty and what is my benefit for prepaying. All right. So watch this. Maybe this will make it clear. I'm going to go back to my original question. If I'm going to give the bank this $2,031.55 over 1 year, that's the money that I owe them. Do I have to give it to them in 12 monthly installments? Yes or no? Yes or no? No. Yolanda says no. Steve Mack says no. I don't have to give it to them in 12 monthly installments. Let's see. If I have on the side a reserve fund, I've got a reserve fund. Let's say I got $15,000, $20,000 in my reserve fund. All right. This is just a question. Could I borrow some money from my reserve fund and prepay it to this mortgage, give it to the bank when I want to? What if I were to prepay the $2,031.55? So I start out with, let me put this up here. I start out with $2,000. I start out with $200,000. Okay, $200,000. I'm going to give them the $2,031.55. All right, in 1 month instead of over 12 months. Let me give them that money over, and then I would subtract it from what I owe, $2,031.55. Boom, equals $197,968.45. That's exactly what I have right here on line 12 of this amortization schedule. So if I had about, if I had a little bit of money in the bank, could I take the $2,031.55 and prepay it to the loan? What would happen to all the interest between line 2 and line 12? What would happen to all the interest between line 2 and line 12? I would save that. Look at $12,779.81. Ladies and gentlemen, here's my question to you. How much would the penalty have to be for me not to save $12,700.79? When you do the math on most of these prepayment penalties, the penalty is far less than the interest you would save. In fact, even on residential properties in Canada, most of those residential properties in Canada have prepayment penalties. And some of my clients live in Canada. And we've actually done the math. In fact, the Canadian mortgage companies make it easy for you because they have a prepayment penalty calculator right on the website. Let me tell you what happened to one of my clients. What happened was I showed them how they can save $100,000 in interest they don't have to pay the bank. Okay. If you prepay, but you don't know what you're getting for it, it's hard to do the cost benefit analysis. It's hard to understand what opportunity costs are because you don't have the information. You don't have the data. Banks are hoping you never have the data. So we put the money in, and they found out that to save $100,000 into the calculator, it was going to cost them $1,200 in penalties to save $100,000 in interest. Is it worth it? Would it be worth it to save $100,000 in interest, but it only cost me $1,200 in penalties to get it? Come on, ladies and gentlemen, put it in the chat. What they're hoping when you hear prepayment penalty is that all you're going to do is avoid and not do the math. Not do the math. They're hoping you never do the math. So if you don't know what you're going to get for prepaying, and you don't even know what the penalty is for prepaying, how can you make a proper decision without the data? Or some of you would say data. If you don't have the data, how can you make a business decision with no data? If you're a business person and you're listening to people saying avoid the prepayment penalties, and they haven't told you the numbers, why should we listen to them? Why should we listen to anyone who has not done the math to tell us what the benefits or the negative part about that? If we don't know, how can we make a decision? Come on, ladies and gentlemen, that's all we're pointing out here. Do the math. So I can prepay $2,000. Now, just so that you can understand this, when real estate investors hear me say this, the first thing that they go to is, Don, I can't use up all of my money that I have in my my reserve fund to prepay the loan. How do I repair the properties? No, you don't use all of it. You can do this sustainably. Okay, here's what you want to do. How much are you putting in? How much are you putting in to your, out of all the rents that you're bringing in, how much are you putting into your fund? Okay, so when you figure out how much you're putting into your fund, if you prepay something, then don't do anything else until you replace that money. Let me give you an example here. Let's say we want to pay $2,000 towards principal here and save $12,700 in interest we don't have to pay. Now my account is down by $2,000. So I'm continuing to get rents. Let's say out of those rents that I'm getting from all of my properties, I'm putting $500 a month away. I'm putting $500 a month away into this thing. All right. $500 a month away. All right. If I'm doing that, how long would it take me to put my $2,000 back into my reserve fund? If I to replace my $2,000, how long would it take? I'm looking in the chat. I'm putting in $500 a month into my reserve fund. How long would it take to put it back? All right. How many months at $500 a month? Somebody put it in here. $500 a month. And while they're getting those answers, if you are online, if you are watching us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, you can call the number scrolling across the bottom of your screen, 256-886-1867. Operators are on duty right now that will take your message. They will message me, and then I will call you back, and you can ask your question live online right now. I borrowed $2,000 from my account, ladies and gentlemen, but I'm putting $500 a month into that account. How long will it take me to replace that $2,000? Brandy says 4 months. All right. Steve Mack says 4 months. So what if I did this? I'm on this loan. For the next 4 months, I just make my regular principal payments, my regular mortgage payments. That's line 13, line 14, line 15, and line 16. After 4 months, will I have that $2,000 back in my account? And if I have it back in my account in 4 months, and I've already, out of the other monies that I'm getting in from my rents, and I'm reinvesting that money because I haven't touched it, I'm only touching the money that's in the reserve fund. In 4 months, could I take that $2,000 and add it to principal again and knock off another 10 or 11 months? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and be all the way down to line 26 on my amortization schedule in just 5 months. In just 5 months, I'm already down to line 26 on my amortization schedule, which means I have $4,588.05 in equity, but it didn't cost me $30,000 to get it. Ladies and gentlemen, does it make sense to you now that you're looking at this, that if I ignore how much interest I'm paying, can any real estate investor watching this show right now tell me that they can justify paying out $34,500 to the bank, and all they get out of it is $4,500 in equity? Can we justify paying $30,000 of the hard-earned money we just received for $4,500 in equity? Can you justify that now that you know, now that you can see the numbers? Can you justify continuing to do that? Anybody? And if they can, I'll give you an opportunity to say so. Can you justify that, giving that kind of money away when you don't have to? And raise your hand. I'll bring you to the stage and tell me why. Yolanda says no, can't do it, can't justify it, can't justify it, can't do it at all. Can anybody in here tell me why we should continue to give this money to the bank when we don't have to? I can continue to invest. So here's what I'm saying, ladies and gentlemen. If we keep something up like this, if we can keep something up like this, I want to show you something where I want to cash out refi. I want to cash out refi on this thing. I want to cash out refi $100,000. Okay. If I do it the bank's way, without the aid of market conditions, let's say absent of market conditions, how long would it take me to get $100,000 in equity? Okay. $100,000 in equity. That's 261 months. 261 months on this loan divided by 12. It would take me 21 years. 21 years to get $100,000 in equity. And here's what I want to ask, and I've asked every real estate investor I've ever had the pleasure of talking with that even gave me the time of day. When you got $100,000 in equity on this type of loan, how much interest did it cost you that your renters gave you? How much did it cost? $247,000 in interest to get $100,000 in equity. Ladies and gentlemen, I ask you, in any way, shape, or form, is this a deal? That it cost me, I had to pay out $347,000 of the money my tenant gave me to get $100,000 in equity. Now I'm going to talk about cash out refi. How much did it cost? That is way too much money. Way too much money. So now I take my $100,000 out, or maybe 80,000 of it out, and now I can refinance. What if by using a strategy like this, okay? By using a strategy like this, what if I could get my $100,000 in equity years sooner? So in just 5 months, I've skipped 30 payments in just 5 months. What if I keep a strategy like that where I can get down to my $100,000, all right, not in 20 years, but in 5 years? What if I could get to my $100,000 in equity in about 5 years instead? And I could cash out refi where it didn't cost me over $200,000 in equity and in interest. What if I could get there where it only cost me about $25,000 or $30,000 instead? So here's my question to you. That 200, let me take that back down there to $100,000 in equity. 247,000. If you give that to the bank, you now don't have that money to invest. So, well, Don, I can get that back on my taxes, and then maybe I can invest it that way. But how long would it take to get that money back? We're talking about once a year, you do your taxes, you take a look at how much interest you're paying over the year, and then you can get some of that money back from the government. You can get some of that money back from the government. I said, well, we're going to reduce your tax burden by X amount of dollars. Now you have that money that you can invest, but you can do that once a year. I'm talking about gaining any money that you can gain throughout the year. Anybody know anything about compound interest? How much time is lost if I have to wait a year before I can do any investing? If that interest money, I can only do it yearly. What if I could get that money throughout the year? Doesn't that give me a head start on investing so that I can have some compound interest or put it back into my real estate portfolio? Why do I have to wait for the money when I can get my equity faster and cheaper? So let's break it down this way, ladies and gentlemen. All right. Let's break it down this way. I'm looking for questions. If you have any questions, raise your hand, come to the stage. All right. And I'm going to stop right now and ask, are there any questions on the stage right now and here in Clubhouse? Any questions? Pausing. Flash your mic if you got a question. I don't see any questions. I'm going to continue. I need to show you this because it is so important to see. All right. Because I started at 8:30. I got to end at before 10:30. I need you to see this right now. I need you to see this. If I can prepay, let me show you something here. 5 years on this loan. That's 60 payments. 5 years on this loan. Look at this. That's $11,736.46 in equity, but it cost me $68,000 to get it. What if I could get down to here in a year and a half or 2 years? Wouldn't that be better than taking 5 years and paying out 68 grand just so that I can avoid a penalty or use a strategy that says just make minimum payments? Okay. All right. All right. Somebody's calling in. Go ahead and hang up. If you're calling in, hang up. All right. And let me look at my messages. Let me call you back. All right. I'm going to look at my messages. I got one person that's calling in to ask a question. All right. And it hasn't come. They haven't sent that over to me yet. All right. So if you're calling in, tell them don't send the call through. All right. I'm not going to talk to you. There's just too many delays. So leave a message and we'll call you back. Okay. That's Joyce. Let me call Joyce back and see if she has a question. Okay. So hold on. All right. All right. Stop calling. Okay. Hold on for a second. Don Daniel here. Laura, are they calling to ask a question? Don't don't send a question through. Just send me the message and I'll call them back. Thank you. Bye-bye. Yeah, I had to give the operators a different so we're gonna call this number and see if Joyce has a question for us. So let me go ahead and get that together. Let's ask Joyce a question. So let me find her number here online and we'll get that done. All right. Call, let's see. Get her number. 90. So I'm going to call that on speakerphone, okay? And we're going to get that done. So we're going to get, let's see, 8. All right, let's call her on speaker.
Hey, thanks for calling. To connect and talk, just say your name and what you're calling about after the beep.
Don Daniel from the P.I.L.L Method Show.
Hey, thanks.
Hello.
Hello, Joyce.
Yes.
This is Don Daniel from P.I.L.L Method.
No. Hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine.
Hello.
Were you calling in to ask a question?
Yes, I was calling to ask a question. I have a rental property which I'm renting currently,
Mm-hmm.
and it has a renter who's trying to pay off what I owe in my mortgage, and then later on they want whatever they are paying goes towards a rent to own.
They want to buy it.
Yes, correct.
Okay, hold on for just a second, Joyce. We want to get to that. And I'm going to keep the call going on Clubhouse, but on YouTube, on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn, we're at the end of our show. So we're going to let you all go. I want to thank you for being here. And we're going to have to do a second version of this probably when we come back from, we're going to be on vacation for the next few days. We're just going to do some replays, but we'll be back on, Kurt, when we'll be back on Sunday. What is the date? I'm looking up here, looking at the calendar. All right. We'll be back on Sunday the 30th. All right. We'll be back on Sunday the 30th.
Is it the 30th or is it next Sunday, the 23rd?
Not the 23rd. We'll still be out.
Okay.
So we'll be back on Sunday the 30th to do a second version of this show. All right. So folks, thank you very much. We're going to say goodbye to you online. Let's have the last word from Dr. Eric Thomas, and then we'll save the rest for Clubhouse. Okay. See you guys. See you in 2 weeks.
Listen to me, y'all. But one of his mentees took us through one of their programs, and I paid off my mortgage. But guess what happened? My marriage went to a whole nother level. And you know why? Because my wife is a security freak. And even when I blew up, my wife would be like, oh, you blew up, but how long is you gonna keep making this kind of money? I was like, I don't know, forever. She's like, you sure? Because I'm gonna keep my license as a nurse just in case you don't. So when I paid the house off, my boy was like, you ain't gotta do that, you can do this. But when I paid the house off using that program, it took the stress level all the way down for my wife because we no longer had a mortgage. Does that make sense? That thing that was coming every month, that was getting on her nerves, we didn't have that no more. And so she was at rest.